Alright, what is up guys, and welcome back to another Zoids video. So I wanted to do an updated Saber Tiger video to accommodate the updated Command Wolf video that I did, but as you can see here, I do not have nearly as many Saber Tiger variants. There are a few variants that I own that are not pictured here, but they do have own videos of their own to go off of, and I really wanted to just compare the different versions of the baseline Saber Tiger here, the standard red variant used by the Xenobus Empire and later the Gylos Empire. The only one that I'm missing that is not pictured here is the Masterpiece Saber Tiger, which I don't own and do not plan on owning. Although my friend and fellow collector Brad, he does have the Masterpiece Shield Liger, so it is possible that I will be able to get my hands on that and do a video from the one in his collection, but it is not likely I'll be able to get my hands on the Masterpiece Saber Tiger. Well, basically what we're doing today is doing a modern, updated Saber Tiger video, because it's been a while since I've talked about it, and talking about the main different three models that exist out there, the different core molds of the Saber Tiger. The Modeler Spirit series, which is this smaller, articulated 144th scale one that was released in the mid-2010s. And then this right here, the original motorized one that was originally released in 1983. But this particular version is the 1999 NJR version with the box featured behind it here. And then finally, the HMM version by Kotobukiya, released originally in 2009, but has had several different reissues with the box featured right here. So the other reason I wanted to do this is these two right here, the NJR motorized one and the HMM one, are new to my collection. I didn't originally own these. The NJR one I was actually given to by my friend Brad as he came back from Japan one time, and he managed to procure this one for me unbuilt. So it was in its original box as pictured right here since 1999, unbuilt, and got it for a pretty decent price. I had to pay a little bit more to have it imported, but I probably spent about $70 to get this thing unbuilt, and was actually able to build it myself from scratch, which I know is probably like sacrilegious to some people who would probably prefer to see this thing sealed forever, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and it is really cool to have one of those authentic, you know, older 1999 Zoids that is essentially now in mint condition, because I got to build it from scratch from the box. And I had never built the Saber Tiger motorized kit before. The Hasbro version I had got secondhand in around 2016. I actually have two copies of the yellow Saber Fang, the Hasbro version, which I've already done a video on. And one of them is from Brad's collection. It's an older one that he got that's missing a lot of pieces, and that may be my attempt to do a custom paint job Zoid for the first time ever, but I'll decide how I feel about that later on. And then, of course, we have the HMM version, which I, again, did not originally own. I procured this one while I was in between jobs and working at a hobby store. The same story I told as how I got the Command Wolf AC HMM. And this one was from a previous collector, so it was already pre-built, which is a little bit more unusual when it comes to HMMs. But I wasn't exactly complaining because it was a much more affordable way to get this version of the Saber Tiger mold, and I do already have an HMM Saber Tiger with the Great Saber, which I've already done a review on. So I do know what the construction process of the HMM Saber Tiger is like, and it's fantastic for the record, but I wasn't, terribly missing out on a whole lot by not being able to build this exact one. So let's go ahead and get into it. So a little bit of lore about the Saber Tiger. So the Saber Tiger, of course, was first introduced pretty early in the war by the Xenobus Empire in the original battle story, and was designed to be this sort of medium-size, jack-of-all-trades, a workhorse Zoid that would be able to take on essentially anything that the Helic Republic could throw at them if deployed in enough large numbers. This proved to actually be remarkably successful, as there was nothing that the Helic Republic had that could stand up to this thing. This thing proceeded to hand the Helic Republic their ass for 12 years until the Helic Republic managed to capture one and have it reverse engineered to make the Shield Liger. And the Shield Liger would be this equal and opposite parallel to the Saber Tiger that debatably had a better arrangement of weapon customizations that they could be outfitted with, as that is one of the things that's a little bit lackluster with the Saber Tiger. But its range, mobility, armor, and close-range combat capabilities were absolutely unparalleled by that era. In response to the Shield Liger and the Republic kind of evening the odds a little bit is where they decided to upgrade the ranged weapons on the Saber Tiger and introduce the Great Saber and the assault unit kit that would go with that. Much like the Command Wolf, as I discussed in the previous video, there was a time after the meteorite impact where, you know, lots of things were damaged and they could not manufacture a lot of the newer, more powerful Zoids that they had made later on in the war. And so they had to resort to better outfitting their existing army of Saber Tigers that were already in production or active in the field in order to keep up their army. So the Saber Tiger did become a little bit more obsolete as the war went on, but for a good long while it was a staple workhorse of the Xenobus Empire, and of course was later used by the Gylos Empire. When Gunter Prozin was attempting his coup of the Empire, Emperor Rudolph had to pilot a Saber Tiger himself in an attempt to keep himself alive and even the odds, but it was no match for the Bloody Death Soar that Gunter Prozin had at the time. In terms of the anime, the Saber Tiger is, of course, first seen in Zoids Chaotic Century, and for a first couple of episodes is kept kind of enigmatic in the background, not really shown too much. And the first one we really get to see a lot of screen time with is the red one that Raven procures and ends up being his first Zoid that he uses for most of the first season of the show. Of course, it was significantly enhanced by the capabilities of the organoid system. Raven was just an incredible pilot as he was, so he was able to kind of elevate the capabilities of this thing far beyond that of the average pilot, and was able to wipe out an entire Republic army with it, which is pretty impressive. He also handed Van his ass with the Saber Tiger as well, with Van using the Shield Liger, and established their rivalry very firmly there as the fellow organoid user. There are a couple of specialized Saber Tigers seen in the anime, such as Karl Schubaltz had a special Saber Tiger with a Gatling unit on it, which they did make into a model kit. There was the HMM Schwarz version is what it's called, which is the Japanese name for Karl Schubaltz. And that one was released in, I think, 2009 or 2011, I think. And so it's very old and has never been reprinted because, to my knowledge, it seems like Kotobukiya does not have the rights to re-release any of the HMM kits that have the names of the anime characters. So unfortunately, the HMM Schwarz Saber Tiger is kind of lost to time, but hopefully we can get that back as a generic unit somehow, or you can just get a Great Saber and outfit it with a Gatling unit customized parts kit, which does exist. In Zoids New Century Zero, there of course were the yellow Saber Tigers that you will probably know from the Hasbro motorized version of the kit used by the Tigers team. The very first opponents we see the Blitz team going up against at the beginning of the first episode, which again, similar to how they handle the introduction of the Blade Ligers and Zoids Fusers, I feel like is a way to kind of segue out of the previous generation of powerful Zoids and bring in the new generation. So it's like, oh, the Saber Tiger was so threatening in Chaotic Century, but now it's going to be cannon fodder in New Century Zero, and that was their way of, you know, introducing that power creep a little bit. And the Saber Tiger has minor appearances in Fusers and Genesis. And as far as the video games go, of course, the Saber Tiger and the Great Saber are playable in the Zoids Versus series, and in Zoids Versus 2, known as Zoids Battle Legends, there actually is a prototype Saber Tiger type Zoid you can use, just simply called the Proto Saber, and it is something that is basically a stripped down, de-armored Saber Tiger in appearance, but in terms of performance, it is essentially the exact same model underneath. It could be outfitted with the exact same types of equipment, but it is just a lot more, it has better stats, it's a little bit more versatile. So onto the kits themselves. So let's first talk about the original motorized version here. So again, I built this essentially straight out of the box, brand new, and that was really cool to be able to have the opportunity to do that. I did not put any decals or stickers or anything on it, but it's essentially brand new right out of the box, like not even any dust on it or anything. It's in perfect condition, and this is the model kit as it looked in 1999 with the NJR release, and it doesn't even look that much functionally different than how it did in the 80s version, the 1983 OJR version. But one thing that's worth pointing out is with the Modeler Spirit series, the way they handle the coloration is usually an homage to the original 1983 release. And so you'll notice the cockpit canopy of the original version has this translucent, if the camera will focus, this translucent brownish orangish color, and that is what the original Motorized Saber Tiger also had, whereas the modern 1999 version has the translucent green. Apparently, the Motorized Saber Tiger uses the exact same motor as the Shield Liger Motorized kit did, which is kind of cool. It's kind of like a little bit of a lore reference there, how they are kind of reverse engineered off of each other. And some of the weapons are also, you'll find these on other Zoids as well. So these cannons on the side here can also be found on the Red Horn, as well as this cannon right here and this little side radar piece right here. This cannon right here can also be found on the Red Horn. And I like that a lot of the weapons are kind of modular and interchangeable like that, because it does kind of give you this sense of you have this army with a mass production assembly line, which is able to outfit all of its military assets with the same equipment. And I like that they're the same like that. I think this is also pretty much the same color as the Red Horn as well, at least the modern 1999 NJR and Hasbro Red Horn. This Red Saber Tiger like this did not get a Hasbro release, so you could not find this on American store shelves. You had to exclusively import the Red Saber Tiger like this, although I do believe there was a Hasbro Red Saber Tiger action figure, which is another, variant of these, which I've shown off some of those before, but they're basically simplified versions that are like between these two sizes that have like one little action feature on the back, like a lever you can pull back and it swings their arm up and down or something cool like that. And some people here in the US collected those back in the day instead of the model kits. There was also some of the other variants of this kit obviously include the Great Saber version, as we talked about, but in the OER release, the European release, the Zoid was called Saber with a Z, and of course we know it was called Saber Fang in the Hasbro release, but Saber was actually a blue faction Zoid in the OER comics, and had this sort of dark gray color scheme to it, which I think looks really cool. And of course, there was a version of it for Zoids 2 and Techno Zoids as well. In the Zoids Fusers era, right before we stopped getting Hasbro allocations for Zoids here in the US, the last product line before that one essentially ended, we did get a Holotech Saber Tiger, which is actually pretty common, pretty cheap, and pretty easy to find, and is probably one of the easiest Zoids to find here in the US now. There are lots of them that went unbuilt and unsold as retailers stopped carrying Zoids. And so it essentially is this exact same model right here, but it is in a translucent yellow plastic. And it looks okay. I don't particularly care for some of the Holotechs, and that one in particular looks a little bit cheap, but it is a cool alternative out there, and some people like being able to see like the skeletal structure on the inside as well. Onto the Modeler Spirit series. So again, these were only released during a limited time around 2014, 2015-ish. And this is essentially, like I said, a 1 in 144th scale, whereas opposed to these are 1 in 172nd scale. And so this is kind of the equivalent of like a real grade Gundam compared to like a master grade over here. So it does have high build complexity compared to the motorized versions, but it is, if the camera will focus on it, good lord, it's so small. It does have higher build complexity, but it is lacking in some of the details reimagined in the way that the HMM version does. A lot of the details are much more faithful to the original versions, while still having articulation and build complexity. So there's a certain appeal to these that is unique unto themselves. They managed to be sort of a high articulation, complex build version of the original, but if you're into sort of how the details have been reimagined and redesigned with the HMMs, you might be a little disappointed by these guys. They're also kind of expensive now, and I would not recommend overpaying for them. But yeah, they have a lot of articulation, all their joints move, they have the opening cockpit. They also come with a little piece of terrain, a little track of land you can display them on, which is pretty cool. And I like these guys quite a bit. They're quite nice. I also think the color here on the Modeler Spirit Series version is very flattering. There's also some stickers that are not ones I had to apply myself. They were just simply included already on the plastic when opening it right out of the box. So right off the runners, it already had some decals on there, which is kind of nice, meaning they probably won't come off very easily if they're put on there by a machine. And there is both the regular Saber Tiger and the Great Saber in Model Spirit Series version. And I originally tried to track down the Great Saber version, but it's okay that I didn't, because I now have the HMM version of that one. So then finally on to the HMM version. The one thing you'll notice about the HMM version right away is just how strikingly different it is in terms of color scheme compared to the original. I noticed that as well with the Red Horn. If you watch my HMM Red Horn video, you will notice that in an attempt to modernize the designs of the Empire Zoids, they definitely changed the color a little bit. And some people may not like that. Some people may think that that is not an optimal design decision, but I think it looks fine. I think that, you know, the original is not going anywhere, so the HMM can kind of look however it wants, and it's not going to detract from the original. But just the sheer upgrade in terms of detail is really incredible. And as always with the HMMs, they don't just add additional details. The proportions of the Zoids change quite a bit. So they have generally more evenly distributed limbs, longer, lankier limbs, more slender torsos, more thicker necks and things like that, smaller heads that are not overly oversized. Something you may have noticed about the model kits, such as the Race Tiger and the Brass Style Tiger, is that their heads are completely separate from the motorized function, whereas in this era with the Saber Tiger and the Shield Liger, the heads are connected to the motorized function. So when you flip the lever and turn on the motor, I don't have batteries in this one, obviously, it will open and close the mouth as it's walking. So there has to be like a connective piece that runs to the motor in order to do that. And because you don't have that here with the HMM version, the head can be a little bit smaller, a little bit more proportional to the rest of the body, and you just end up with a much nicer looking figure as a result. And all of the 3D models in the Zoids anime and in the video games are all based off of these original model kits. So detail for detail, everything in the anime and in the Zoids Versus games is going to be very faithful to these original model kits. And, you know, these, don't forget, these are designs from the 80s. This was originally released in 1983. So the modernization here definitely elevates the quality of it quite a bit. Although I can understand some people do not prefer it. But I did not personally build this one. Like I said, it was already built from another collector, so I'm not 100% sure how sturdy it is or if things are going to fall apart, but it does look like the previous owner did a great job building it. There's not any little spurs or plastic nubs anywhere that I can really see, and the decals are all placed on there, which is something I don't typically do with HMMs, but they did a really good job with it. And he's got the weapons, the way that they're more proportional is great too, because with this one, the fact that this turret doesn't rotate down any makes it to where, you know, the beams are never going to angle downward any Zoid that he's facing in front of. They're like permanently angled up here, you know, so if you're trying to pose this thing for some kind of war scene, it's never going to look quite right. Whereas with this one, not only are the weapons longer and have the weapon itself has articulation, so you can pose it, but you can also kind of arch the back of the Zoid a little bit and have him kind of hunched up and crouched down, so you can increase the angle that the weapon is pointing down, and just make it a lot more of a realistic, more posable scene you got going on there. These tiny little spindly weapons on the side over here have been reimagined into these massive cannons right here, which again, even though that they are much larger, they just seem just so much more proportional to the rest of the Zoid. You would have large weapons on a large Zoid like this that are not comically oversized either. I don't think there's really much Zoids that are that have comically oversized weapons when they redesign them like this. I think they're actually quite proportional. Not the biggest fan of the sort of tannish, creamish color for the fangs and the feet. I think it actually looks better with the fangs than it does with the feet, but it is a nice little contrast, and it does make them look more like fangs and teeth than this darker metallic gray silver with the original here. The box art for the original has a lot more reflective on the fangs back there, so they look pretty good, whereas the feet are almost completely concealed by sand there. So this is a little bit of a better look in that regard. But yeah, other than that, it's fantastic. Of course, there is also 2 variants of the HMM, like I said, where there's the Great Saber version and there's also the Saber Tiger Gold, which is sort of a reference to the yellow one seen in New Century Zero and sort of a reference to the battle story. But that one was only released one time and is pretty hard to find, so good luck with that one. And I wish that they would do like a generic yellow HMM Saber Tiger. It might be pretty popular, but generally the ones you're going to find on the market are going to exclusively be this red one right here, which was originally released all the way back in 2009, the second year that they started doing HMMs, as one of the first HMM kits released shortly after the Shield Liger. And then it was reissued years later and then reissued again in 2019. So the most recent printing of this is 2019, and you should be able to find those pretty common in the wild. This, I believe, is the second printing. You can tell because the Zoids logo there is in the red and blue and gold colors, whereas the third printing, the most modern one, would be, the logo would be in all silver. And so I think this one is definitely a few years old at least, which I'm not exactly complaining about, but you should be able to find unbuilt copies of the most modern printing in the wild pretty easily. And I wouldn't overpay for them. I really wouldn't pay more than like $60-ish for this, because this is considered like a medium-sized HMM. If you include the customized parts kit, like how the Great Saber does, it becomes one of the large-size box HMMs. But this box right here is comparable in size to the Command Wolf box, so I would not overpay for this. The Great Saber as well, I originally got at Anime Expo in California in 2017. And has since had a reprint, I think, like last year or the year before. So you should be able to find Great Saber Markings Pluses out there on the market unbuilt. And I wouldn't overpay for that one either. I'd probably pay upwards of $100 for that one, but not any more than that. So that is probably going to do it for this. I really enjoy the Saber Tiger. It's probably not one of my favorite Zoids, but I do enjoy it as a companion/rival to the Shield Liger. And I really like how there are certain Zoids that both the Helic Republic and the Xenobus Empire or Gylos Empire have that are these, mass-produced military workhorses that are very emblematic of the aesthetic of those respective factions. And I think the Saber Tiger represents that perfectly, much like how the Red Horn does as well, or like how the Shield Liger and the Command Wolf does on the Republic side. So thank you guys so much for watching this. I will see you guys next time, hopefully with a brand new HMM built out of my collection.